This is Dale, an experienced log truck driver. Behind Dale is Eric, a rookie log trucker seen here in blue. They were making their way through a treacherous mountain route when disaster struck. A massive rock slide came out of nowhere, unmercifully pummeling the loggers and pushing them close to the edge. Thankfully, the nearby cars reversed to safety. Eric was the first to get pushed over the edge. Dale hung on, hoping it would end. Then, Dale's truck was forced over. Miraculously, because Eric and Dale's trucks were somehow able to stay wheels down and not tumble. Both drivers, who still sustained serious injuries, survived and lived to log another day. This is Andreas, a Utah park ranger. Well, at least he used to be. Unfortunately, Andreas was just let go from his job. The timing couldn't have been worse for Andreas, as he was also going through a nasty divorce. Andreas was at an extremely low point. In his despair, he sadly decided it wasn't worth living anymore, so he stole the park ranger helicopter with the intention to purposely crash it into a nearby crane. To Andreas' surprise, the helicopter ended up surviving the impact and somehow got tangled in the crane's cables. At this point, Andreas regretted his decision and asked God to spare him, but right in the midst of his prayer, the crane collapsed. Andreas thought this time surely was the end. However, again to Andreas' surprise, the metal scaffolding the crane was holding cushioned him from direct impact. Andreas was seriously hurt and had to spend many years in jail for his rash decision. However, Andreas used the incident for inspiration, and he became a champion for anyone who has lost all hope. Meet Ricky, a crane operator in the west coast of the USA. Being a crane operator, you have to follow a long list of very stringent rules and regulations for good reasons. One of the most important rules is that the operator must wear a safety harness at all times. Ricky knew this, but this was a rather hot day and Ricky wanted to cool down on the crane's deck before he started his next shift. Due to the heat, Ricky decided his harness wasn't needed, so he left it in the cabin. As Ricky soaked in the views and fresh air, the unthinkable happened. He tripped over some soda cans. Ricky plummeted to what he thought was his sure death. Due to a crazy twist of fate, there just so happened to be a truck hauling mattresses below Ricky. In the most unlikely turn of events, Ricky somehow landed on those mattresses. Ricky broke 17 bones in his body and was subsequently fired for his poor decision. However, Ricky went on to work as a construction safety instructor. Ricky knew all too well the risks of not following the rules, and he spent the remainder of his days sharing his crazy story and encouraging others to not take unnecessary risks. Officer Jim had just pulled over Eduardo for speeding. Eduardo wasn't just an ordinary citizen, however. He was a high-level lieutenant of a powerful drug cartel. Jim didn't know this fact, but Eduardo didn't know that Jim didn't know. Fearing jail, Eduardo rashly put out a hit on Officer Jim. Barely a minute went by after being pulled over, and one of Eduardo's men showed up in a semi and tried to smash into Jim's cruiser. They miscalculated and ended up flying over the barrier and into unsuspecting traffic below. Thankfully, the semi didn't land directly on any vehicles. Everyone in this dust-up survived with only minor injuries. Paradoxically, Eduardo's hot-headed decision ended up leading to his and his henchman's arrest. They both spent many years in jail.